The 2020 season was one of the most exciting we've had in the past few years. The midfield battle was incredibly close, incredibly exciting. Every race there was a different person coming out on top in that midfield. But what isn't looked at as much is the fight at the bottom between Williams, Haas, Alfa Romeo, AlphaTauri a bit. So I thought to make that fight maybe more exciting, or just to see what would happen if we were to reverse every single race result from the 2020 season. Who wins the title? Who wins the constructors' title? Who will win the races? Who will win each race? So what I've done is I've gone through every single race, and I've taken the bottom 10 people, I've given them their points, and I've put it in the table, and I've basically ran through the entire season, but reversing all the results. So, quick note, if someone retired or DNF'd from a failure, they still DNF. It's not, if you DNF, you win the race because you're technically bottom. It's the bottom out of the finishers, all the people who finish, the bottom out of them. So you'll see now, as you can see, round 1 in Austria, Latifi came last out of all the finishers. So there you can see 25 points for Latifi, Vettel second, Giovinazzi third. Bit of a odd podium, isn't it? So then on the right you have the driver standings after that race. So after the round 1 in Austria, that's what the driver standings would look like. So, well, yeah, there's round 1. Latifi wins, 25 points to Latifi. And I am going to be doing fastest lap as well. It won't always show on the left, but I have counted it in the points. If the person who had got fastest lap is in the top 10, the new top 10. Obviously, for the most part, they won't be. So, round 1 in Austria, Latifi, Vettel, Giovinazzi on the podium. So, and then you can see on the right, that is the table. So then going into round 2, in the Styrian Grand Prix, Latifi wins again, meaning he gets 50 points and soars right to the top of the table. Giovinazzi in second and Gasly in third now, but Russell and Gasly on the podium in Styria alongside Latifi. Round 3, we go to Hungary, where again the Latifi dominance, the Nicholas Latifi dominance. Never thought I'd say it, but it's, you know, you want it. So there's 75 points for Latifi, Russell second again, Giovinazzi third, Grosjean fourth, Raikkonen fifth, Ocon sixth, etc., etc. So Latifi still top of the table. And only 4 non-point finishers, as you can see. Only Bottas, Albon and Verstappen and Stroll, who don't have any points yet. Everybody else, even Hamilton, the world champion, the actual champion, he has points as well. So, moving on to round 4, the UK and Raikkonen wins. So, no more Latifi wins. Latifi has been dominating so far, but now Kimi Raikkonen wins the Silverstone, with Grosjean second and the current leader Latifi in third place. Bottas finally scores points, Albon finally scores points as well, Stroll as well. So now Verstappen is the only non-point scorer, but Latifi just building the gap at the top. He's got 90 points now compared to second place Giovinazzi 54. But look at the fight between kind of for third and second. You know, there's only like 3 points in it between third and fifth. So it's a spicy championship battle. Round 5, the 70th anniversary Grand Prix. You know, the Silverstone again. And Latifi comes back to his winning ways. It's looking likely that he could be your 2020 world champion in the Williams. The Williams, what an incredible car that is this season, it seems. Russell in second again, Giovinazzi in third. So Giovinazzi stays in second, but Russell is catching him. He's only 7 points behind second place now, but Latifi is storming ahead in the lead. And Verstappen's still pointless at the bottom, but a few people moving around, obviously. Ricciardo, quite a good race for him. He gets bumped up quite a bit. Grosjean as well, good race for him also. Then we go to round 6, Spain, Circuit de Catalunya. I think that's how you say it. I could be completely wrong. And we have a new race winner. Romain Grosjean wins in Spain from Latifi, then Russell. So Latifi still at the top, but Grosjean moves it up. Ties now with George Russell, but So they're tying for third, and Giovinazzi still in second place. Magnussen, a good race for him in terms of he can jump up the table a fair bit. And also for Esteban Ocon, as he is only 1 point ahead of Sainz and tying with Sebastian Vettel, and then Gasly is only 1 point ahead of him. So that kind of between 10th and 6th is extremely close, and then between 5th and 1st is quite close, apart from Latifi, who's just next level. Round 7, Spa-Francorchamps. I definitely said that wrong. In Belgium. And another new race winner. It's the other Haas. It's Kevin Magnussen. So he obviously shoots right at the table. The leader, Latifi, second, and then third, Grosjean in the Haas. So wow, the Haas, great weekend for them, double podium. But an even better weekend for the Ferraris, as they get 4th and 5th. Leclerc, before this, did not have many points at all. I think he had 3. So coming 4th there for Leclerc, great race for him. And Vettel as well, obviously couldn't beat his teammate, but still, 10 points. So Vettel's in 7th now, building the gap from Gasly, and Leclerc just jumps up a lot more. But obviously Magnussen has now made the jump above all of them and begins to chase down Kimi Räikkönen, the Iceman. So round 8, we go to Monza, Italy. And Giovinazzi, in his home race, has won the Italian Grand Prix, well, the first of 2 Italian Grand Prix. A very odd podium, or at least different from what we've had so far this season. In Giovinazzi first, Albon second, and then Russell, who's not very odd this season. He's doing great, obviously, in this one, not in real life. It's pretty sad. But, so Albon obviously gets a big boost there, as well as Giovinazzi mainly. He gets the main boost, as you can see. So then, into round 9, Tuscany. Romain Grosjean wins again, with Russell again on the podium, and Sebastian Vettel getting his second podium of the season. So that's lovely to see there. And Albon just with one more point, as you can see, though he boosted right up. He's on 20 points from the podium last weekend. But Russell is closing, or at least trying to close up to Grosjean, and I've just seen a bit of a spelling error there. That Russell's only on 10 points, if you can see that, but he's not. He's on something like 100 and 120 around, I think. Not entirely sure exactly what he's on. But he's about 120, so the gap between Grosjean and Russell is very close. That's disappointing that I've messed up there. Latifi again building the lead, but actually Grosjean closing it up this weekend, obviously, considering Latifi is not even in the top 10. He DNF'd, which meant that he obviously didn't get any points, and there's now only around a 30-point gap between the leader and then second place Romain Grosjean. But the fight in the midfield between, if you just look between like 13th and 9th, all 28, 25 points. So round 10 now, and we go to Russian Grand Prix, and George Russell wins his first race of the season. He's been on the podium a lot, but he hasn't run a race so far. Even though he's in 3rd place in the standings, he finally wins a race, which puts him only 10 points behind Grosjean, who finished 2nd, and the leader back in the top 10 in 3rd place on the podium. To extend his lead a bit. Again, only around a 30-point gap between Latifi and Grosjean, so he's not necessarily exponentially expanding it, but he's just creeping away with some good point finishes. Norris has a good weekend, obviously. He's now on 28 points, tying with Esteban Ocon. So Latifi still leads the way. Verstappen doesn't have any points, and the midfield fight is still very, very, very close. So then around 11, and it's the Eiffel Grand Prix in Germany, and we have a new race winner, Daniel Kvyat. So a bit of an odd one. He's not been performing in really well this season. He's had some decent points finishes, but he's just kind of in midfield with kind of Ocon, Norris, Leclerc area, around 25, 26 points. But obviously 25 points this weekend. Latifi in 2nd, Magnussen 15th. And so Kvyat jumps right up and starts challenging Magnussen, Vettel. But if you look at the top between Latifi and Grosjean, that gap has now grown to around 40 points because of the fact that Grosjean did not finish the race Oh no, he did. Sorry, he only got 6 points. I didn't see that. So he only got 6 points, but obviously Latifi with 18, so that grows. And Russell didn't, or at least he didn't get in the top 10, so he doesn't get any points. So that gap between Grosjean and Russell growing, and it's looking like Russell could be out of the title fight fairly soon. That's a bit of a tongue twister. So then we go to round 12, and who will win this one? It's Daniel Kvyat again. In Portugal, Latifi the leader second and Grosjean 15th. So the gap is now around 50 points, but you know, even though Grosjean had a good finish, he couldn't close it down enough. And Russell with a not great race, really 6th, especially when his teammates finished in second. He comes out around 20 points behind Grosjean now. Albon Norris getting some okay points again for Norris to jump up again above Gasly and Ocon still, but it doesn't look like they're really going to be challenging top 8 anymore. But Daniel Kvyat jumps above Magnussen now, and he could be looking for maybe a 5th or a 4th if he continues on this form, on this trajectory. So then, round 13, and arguably the craziest race yet at Imola, Alex Albon, who has really not been on the pace that much this season. It's the same kind of case as Kvyat. He wasn't doing anything much, but then he's just gone and won a race. Kvyat won 2 in a row. Can Albon win 2 in a row? I don't know, but Alex Albon wins from Grosjean, and then Lance Stroll, who before this only had 4 points. He was sitting basically bottom of the table with second bottom. Obviously Verstappen had no points. He was even behind the person who only came in for a one race at the Eiffel Grand Prix, who you would have seen, I didn't mention at the time, but Hulkenberg obviously got 4 points there, so he was sitting in like 19th. But yeah, so Stroll comes through, Vettel, the leader, Latifi only coming 5th, and so the gap between Latifi and Grosjean is squeezed down a bit to only 40 points again around. So the title fight maybe will be exciting. It's all going to depend on the final stretch now, with around 4-5 races to go. And then round 14, Turkey, and George Russell wins another race, so he closes the gap down to Grosjean, whereas Grosjean doesn't have a good weekend at all, but neither does Latifi, so none of them get points, meaning that Russell just closes the gap to both of them, and they don't progress at all. Raikkonen, good performance, and obviously, but then the shocking result is that Valtteri Bottas, in the worst car on the grid, the Mercedes, they've been nowhere this season. Hamilton, his teammate, only on 6 points, but he comes soaring through for a 3rd place. What an incredible performance. So, yeah, that's pretty funny. Bottas was so bad in that race that when you flip it, he gets 3rd. So now we go on to round 15. After that, the title fight is ever growing more exciting, even though there is still a 40-point gap. Maybe Grosjean can still mathematically win, but can he actually win? Round 15, that was round 14. Round 15 at Bahrain, and Kevin Magnussen wins in the Haas. Grosjean, though, his teammate has not a good race, so he stays on 184 points, whereas Latifi gets 12. So you start to think maybe the title is out of his hands, and Raikkonen, good performance, Vettel decent, Russell very meh, and the winner Kvyat has gone back down to being like 7th now. So the midfield is still close in these last few races, but it's looking like the title is maybe going to Latifi, but 2nd place there's only 8 points in it, so who will win out of Grosjean and Russell there? Let's see, round 16, Sakir, but something happened. Obviously, Lewis Hamilton got coronavirus, or COVID-19, very sadly there. It's alright, he recovered. But instead of Russell going, obviously, to what happened in real life, he went to the Mercedes, the better team. Russell's been demoted to Mercedes, all the way back down to the worst team on the grid. And they've brought in a rookie in Jack Aitken to drive for the best car on the grid. That's an odd choice there. And obviously, Bahrain, Grosjean had the terrible accident, and they've brought in, for the best car, the 2nd best car on the grid in the Haas, they've brought in a rookie in Fittipaldi, but it doesn't matter because it's a 1-2 for the rookies. Fittipaldi wins his 1st ever Formula 1 race, and Jack Aitken comes 2nd in his 1st ever Formula 1 race. So that's quite funny. So Jack Aitken only has 1 race, but he gets 18 points in that race. it's not enough to really jump off. He only goes to 20th, but it's still pretty funny to see that obviously how it worked in real life. When you flip it, it's quite funny. So Magnussen third on the podium, and in this race, because Grosjean did not compete, although Latifi didn't score any points, Latifi wins the world title in Sakir. Incredible scenes, really. Nicholas Latifi, you know, it's a name that's going to go down in history. One of the greatest drivers the world has ever seen. So pretty simple. Latifi win the world title. Williams win the constructors. I think they've probably already done that, to be honest, but very good race from Aitken in this first Formula 1 race. Going into the final race of the season, obviously Aitken didn't get to drive again, but Fittipaldi did, and he gets another win. 2 races in Formula 1 and 2 wins for Pietro Fittipaldi. Magnussen second and the champion Latifi coming third there. But the important thing to note is, obviously really sadly, because Grosjean did not get to race the final 2 races, whereas Russell did, he beats him by 5 points, sorry. He beats him only by 5 points, but it's still enough for Russell to the 5th place that he gets in Abu Dhabi to give him the edge, and it's a 1-2 for the Williams drivers at the end of the year. So you can just see those are the final standings on the right. And these are the final standings overall. So you can see on the right is the drivers' standings, as you've just seen. So 23 drivers, obviously, in the end ended up on the thing, although there were only 20 drivers at the beginning due to people getting COVID and the Grosjean crash. So Verstappen did not score a single point. The only driver to not score a single point, Hulkenberg, only scored points in 1 race and comes 22nd. Then Hamilton, Aitken, Ricciardo, Bottas, Perez, Stroll, Sainz, Leclerc, Ocon, Norris, Gasly, Fittipaldi, Albon, Kvyat, Vettel, Magnussen, Raikkonen, Giovinazzi, Grosjean, Russell, and the world champion Latifi. If you move over to the constructors, Williams comfortably win the constructors, 451 points. Haas second, Alfa Romeo third, AlphaTauri fourth, Ferrari fifth, McLaren sixth. Even though obviously they in real life they came third, it doesn't. You might think the constructors would just completely flip. So obviously Mercedes, it went Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, Racing Point, Ferrari, Renault, whatever. It doesn't completely flip. If you flip it, you would Racing Point are in 8th, and Renault 7th, Red Bull 9th, Mercedes 10th. So it doesn't completely flip. Although you can see, look at the gap between Renault, Racing Point, and Red Bull. There's literally 5 points in it between 7th and 9th, and then Mercedes just had a shocking season, really. Lewis Hamilton, the worst driver ever. He's only got 6 points all season. Disgusting. So yeah, that is what happens if you flip every single result from the F1 2020 season. This took extremely long to do and to write down every result from all the season and then add it to the new table and to go through it all in the first place. So please just like and comment something. Would be nice. Cheers. I'll see you in a bit.